This section is about how do you set the cupping table and how do you cup. Alright, so I'm going to teach you how to put your cupping bowls and what to do with that with all the requirement list. So let's begin with that. Alright, we are going to keep 1, 2 and 3 bowls in which we will be filling up the coffees. Alright, filling up the ground coffee, not the whole beans. So as I said earlier, if you're taking, if you don't have a weighing scale, your best measurement would be either a grammage or either a cup which has got those markings. If you don't, you can use a spoon, but ensure that you're scooping out exactly the same coffee for this and exactly the same coffee for this. Approximately we want 10 to 12 grams. For people who have already cupped, you kind of know the procedure, but let me just run you through again. We're going to take 11 grams. I am taking 11 grams. The ratio of coffee is to water is 1 is to 18.18. So 1 gram of coffee and 18.18 ml of water. So you can eliminate the 0.18. So you can just put 1 gram of coffee and 18 ml of water. That is a standard protocol for cupping the coffee. So first of all, what you do is you put your weighing scale down, put your cup on top, cup, bowl, glasses, whatever it is. And I'm going to take 11 grams. So I'll just scoop it out. This is freshly roasted coffee. That's 11 grams. You will be getting in your, not right now, you've got a mail in which we've given you a cupping sheet. So definitely have that with you. This is how you start cupping, alright? The first and foremost thing, remember, do not lift the cup. Alright? This is not what you want to do. You cannot lift the cup. In case if you lifted the cup, ensure that you're keeping it back on the same place. Alright? Because when you cup with like 15-20 people, if everybody starts lifting the cups, they are going to be misplaced. Plus, in Q grading, you're not allowed to lift the cups. Right? So we're going to smell the coffee right now, which is just ground and it's all dry. We've got no water, nothing. So one small tip, whenever you smell the coffee, all right, keep your mouth a little bit open. In my experience, what I've seen is whenever you keep your mouth a little bit open, you'll get to smell more, you'll get to experience more. So you smell and you blow out the air outside, not inside the cup. And right now what I'm doing is I am not finding out if it is dark chocolate or milk chocolate or all these things. I'm just trying to find out, place myself with the coffee, understanding where does it come from, where does it take me to, and what kind of bracket does it fall in. All right. So you're just smelling right now. And to refresh, you can just sniff the palm of back of your palm, and we move to the next cup. So you smelled it, and one of the tips that I told you was keep your mouth open. The second one is in your entire exercise, entire cupping module, divide your attention 10 is to 90, 10% towards smelling. Don't burn yourself out. Don't try to have a lot of notes while you're smelling. That is really, really extremely crucially important because I see a lot of cupping sheets filled in the starting which has got aroma and fragrance, which has got a lot of pointers, lot of words, lot of tasting notes, lot of other things, but then the moment you start tasting, there is nothing absolutely written over there, or maybe just 1 or 2 pointers written over there. So that is extremely important for you to know, that place just 10% of your focus, and that has nothing to do with importance, just I'm saying the focus. So that 10% is also super important for you to know, because your nose knows and your tongue tells. All right, so you smelt it, absorb it, and let me just give you an example. So I smelt it. I'm not even thinking of scoring it right now. Neither am I thinking of putting a word towards it. But this is a very familiar coffee to me. Very familiar taste also, smell also. It is kind of a cottage. It takes me back to a cottage where the soil, it's just rain and there's fresh aroma of the soil, the earth that gives you the aroma. And pretty much the same over here, but this is more towards the sweeter side of things. It is, yeah, that is the only difference I would say. So my bookmark over here is that this takes me back to the cottage, and sure, this is like kind of sweeter side of things. I'm not putting any word towards it right now. All right. Second, now is the time when you need the timer, and this is a time when you start writing out on your cupping sheet. Do not be thinking that you need to write it correctly, but you can write absolutely anything. This is not an exam, we are reaching over there. But this is also more important for you to have your bookmark set, right? So you write down whatever experience you are having on your bracket. All right, so here I am going to write that this takes me back to a cottage where it's just rained right now and there's a smell of fresh aroma of the soil. All right, in short, definitely right, because there is not much space. And you also can find out one more note, no worries. Like, so you just have to start writing it down over there. Again, remember, just 10% towards aroma and smell, 90% towards tasting. All right. Also, we have given you a cupping sheet, which is very simplified version of a coffee cupping scoring sheet by the SCA. Here we have given you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as an option for the number to be put towards a coffee. So 5 being the least favorite of yours, 10 being the best or great. So if you like something which is like blueberries and jams and you really like it, and if you've given 5, that doesn't really add up. All right. Point of putting words and number is that if you are writing good notes about it, you definitely should be giving it a proper score. All right. So if I want to score the fragrance in this is a different coffee again. I'm going to give it a 7. All right. This is not bad. This is not excellent. This is somewhere in the middle. 7 as per the cupping sheet that we have right now. And this one would also be somewhere around 7 to 8 approximately. I would give it 8. So that is the difference between these two. But again, does not mean this one is a better cup than this. All right. It is not yet proven because I need to taste it right now. So now I'm going to start pouring water. For people who haven't cupped, remember that you are going to pour coffee right at the grounds. All right. You just have to ensure one thing, that all the grounds are equally wet. All right. There shouldn't be a dry spot whatsoever. It is a very simple hack. What you have to do is you just have to pour it on the side of the brim of the cup, and it'll do its own job. It'll start circulating. Just ensure you don't do it too much, because then you are agitating the coffee. You don't want that to happen. The moment water touches the coffee, start the timer. Why the timer? I'll tell you right now. We're gonna break the crust, something called breaking the crust. Alright, we've put the water, alright, and there is no air, there's no dry pockets whatsoever. Now is the time when we smell it again. Alright, so keeping your mouth a little open. Keep smelling and you get a little bit more notes. This has become much more prominent as to what I was thinking earlier. So we're going to wait for 4 minutes, and after that we're going to break the crust. Now again, you're going to write down the notes and you're going to score, give it a scoring. All right. Another tip is that do not smell it a lot, because you are going to burn out pretty much. You don't want to burn yourself out. So save yourself, because we're going to taste a lot of coffees and you're going to think a lot. So just smell, and that's about it. Just move away. So dry fragrance and wet aroma, there are times when the coffees completely change once you add the water. Alright, here is not the case in the coffees that I have, but you have to again write it down, your experience after you put the water, and also score it. So now is the time which is extremely important, which is also my next tip. You need some paper napkins right now, because you don't want the table to get dirty. You take a spoon, grab it, and go near the cup. All you have to do is, you're not gonna. So just imagine this is the cup, and you're just gonna dip your spoon this much. That's it. You're not gonna dip your spoon entirely like this, just this much, and you're gonna skim the surface. This is called breaking the crust. At the 4th minute mark, we are going to break the crust. And most important, do not stir it, just push it back. You're just clearing the surface. And this is a time when you get a lot of volatile compounds right in your nose. So ensure that you're smelling it. You're very close to the cup while you're breaking the crust. There you go. And just dip the spoon in the cup, in a clean water cup. Go to the second cup again and skim the surface again. Remember one thing, you're not gonna stir it, you're just gonna push it and you're gonna break the crust. So if you've done this cup thrice, like you've pushed the crust thrice, you're gonna do the same over here as well. Do not do 3 and 5 or 4 and 5 or whatever. If you've done it 5 times over here, do 5 times over here. The simple reason is you want equal extraction in both of them. So try to limit all the variables. The next tip is going to be skimming. By skimming, we mean you need to just scrape the surface, remove it and dump it in another cup. Clean your spoons. So you don't want that granules in your mouth, right? There you go. Now, we are yet not tasting. Another mistake that a lot of people do is they start smelling right now. It's pointless actually. Do not go for the smell anymore. Just actually, this is the time when you actually think about life, which I always keep telling about in a workshop. So, once you've broken the crust, you're going to wait till the 9th minute mark. Till that time, the coffee will cool down. Just ensure what I did right now, don't do that. Don't move the table. You don't want more extraction, more agitation happening. And that's about it. So why do we have to wait till the 9th minute is pretty simple. Because we don't want to burn our tongue. I remember somebody who had cupped coffee on the 5th minute, burned his palate in my Q grading exam and he could not taste for a very long period of time. So he failed the examination. You don't want to do that for sure. So while the coffee gets cooled down, I'm going to teach you how to slurp. Alright? Slurping is pretty easy. And slurping is very important as well. The reason it is important, as I said, mentioned earlier about olfactory glands. When you slurp the coffee, you want to spray the entire spoon of coffee right at the back of your throat, which is connected to the olfactory bulb, which gives you a lot of information as to how the coffee is, right? 70% of your taste lies in your nose. So that is one of the reasons that when you've got cold, you can't really taste things because your nose is blocked. So whenever you are tasting the coffee, you want your nose as well to be involved in that. That is why you are slurping really hard. Now, it's very important that you don't slurp, you don't focus on the sound that I make, but the point is you just have to slurp, alright? So I've taken water over here. You can also do that. You should actually do that if you're cupping it for the first time. Take water, ample of water in your spoon. It is not hot water. And you just, so place it on your lips and slurp it hard, alright? I'll do that again. So that is the sound that comes when you slurp the coffee. Slurping it hard. That is giving me a great experience of what the coffee is, a great idea of what the coffee is about. What is the smell, what is the body, what is the, not smell, what is the body, what is the aftertaste, what is the experience, what are the flavor notes, all these things I'm just getting it. Right? So before you go on to actual cupping, definitely do this. Definitely try this out. It is very important. In case if you choke, just keep looking up and pray to gods. Alright, now we move to cupping the coffee. We've understood how to set this up, how to slurp. Now, in your sheet, you'll be seeing 5 parameters that we want to judge the coffee on. So, flavor, acidity, aftertaste, body, and overall. Alright, yes. So, alright, so these are the 5 things that we'll be focusing on. I'm going to briefly explain you what a flavor is. Flavor is basically the experience in your palate, in short, in very, very crisp words. Coming next is acidity. Acidity is something that makes your palate sweat. It's kind of the sourness in the coffee. So, like an example of orange, orange is citrus, the citrus fruit. So, in coffee also you'll find these acids. So, anything that, let's say, your palate starts watering, not like extensively, but a hint of it, the sourness, that is acidity. It has nothing to do with the stomach acidity. Body of a coffee is how heavy does your palate feel when you are sipping onto that coffee. If it is light, imagine your tongue just moving through that coffee easily. If it is a heavy body, that makes your mouth a little heavier and your tongue kind of cannot move through as easily. For example, light body is water, heavy body is honey. Aftertaste is of course something that stays with you. Once you have slurped it, once you have gulped it, the taste that is there around your throat, that is the aftertaste. So aftertaste in coffee could be short, long, pleasant, soft, all these things. And overall is a column where you can just write down your own experience about this. I remember I have written things like this is a great cup of coffee. I'll brew it in filter rather than espresso, or I'll have it in winters as against summers. So overall is something that you want to describe, make it more descriptive rather than having a word, or rather than having your cupping notes. So that is overall is just how the coffee is. So we're going to do 3 passes. 3 passes means we're going to slurp. Remember this thing, tip, super important. When you are cupping, don't go crazy about tasting. Alright, you're not going to get anything after a point of time. What you have to do is you just have to slurp. Remember the first 2 parameters, that is the flavor and the acidity. That is what you're focusing on. You're not going to fill up the body, aftertaste or overall columns. You're just going to focus on the acidity and the flavor. That's about it. And the same thing over here. Once you've filled it out, then you move to the second pass. We'll be talking about aftertaste and body. And in the third pass, we'll just go as an overall, what your experience was. So we're going to do this cupping in 3 passes. Now is the time when I am going to tell you how do you think while you cup. So cupping is more towards thought process rather than your palate, because here you are developing your palate, which is super important. So I remember me when I was smelling and tasting coffees 6 years back. For me, initially it was just coffee. Okay, white chocolate, maybe dark chocolate, maybe this thing, maybe again white chocolate. My vocabulary was super limited. How I built my vocabulary was by associating it with memories, numbers, shapes, forms, experiences, and elaborately writing it down that what does coffee means to me, or where it takes me to. All right, I did not start with writing it down. Oh, this is blueberry. Okay, so we're gonna focus on the flavor right now, flavor and acidity. Let's do flavor first. All right. So again, do not put words. This reminds me of my farmhouse, because we used to have that food cooked on that, chula on coal. So this has got a bitter note towards it, which is not really acrid or astringent, but this takes me back over there. So this is my bookmark, all right? And speaking of acidity, acidity seems to be little lower. I would say a little muted acidity, but not dull, all right? Somewhere between slightly unripe banana, slightly like that. When I'm saying acidity being slightly unripe banana, I don't mean the flavor like unripe banana. Let's move to the second one. Flavor and acidity, focus on that. So this is a very important point, alright? When I'm tasting the coffee, this is what you need to learn. So when I'm tasting the coffee, I'm not focusing on the slurp. you actually break down your tongue in your mind and try to visualize what is the experience you're getting on your palate. All right, at the tip of your tongue, at the middle, at the end of your tongue, around your cheeks, around your lips, what experience are you getting? Describing that is super important. Sometimes it is super important. It becomes very difficult for you to taste something without you knowing what that is and put a word towards it. So that is super tough at times. So here you're just breaking down your palate and experiencing as to what is happening around. So you just taste. Move it around your palate. So if I want to put a word towards it, this one, without putting an experience, I'm going to put a word of it tastes like somewhere around chocolates and almonds. That is what it tastes like. Toasted almonds to be specific. And yeah, has again the muted acidity, but I can feel a little bit something on my teeth. So ensure that you're writing it down on your sheet and scoring it. Alright, when you do the exercise, you're gonna write down and you're gonna score it. So acidity, how you're going to rate it is, if it has got more acidity, put 10. If it has got lesser acidity, put 5. In actual cupping sheet, there's another column of intensity where you can probably you like the acidity, but the acidity was low. But here we have kept it super simple and we've just asked you to write down if there is high acidity or low acidity, because the entire point of the exercise is something else. Now we move to the second pass, which will have body and aftertaste as a primary focus. So body, as I said earlier, body is how heavy does your palate feel. So here I'm taking some coffee. Let it swirl around, let it sit for like a second or two, and you'll get to know. Because body is sometimes very tricky for people. Body is also associated with kind of mouthfeel. How heavy does your mouth feel actually, and how light does it feel? So this coffee, I would say the one that I have is a little heavier side. I wouldn't say it is towards honey, but I would score it around 7 or 8 in terms of intensity. And aftertaste is something that I really liked. I actually enjoyed that. In one of my cupping sheets, I had written that it is so good, the aftertaste is so good, I feel like hugging the barista. It is your sheet. Of course, in the Q grading, you don't do that, but you can just express it out in your way so that you remember what you've done. Moving on to the second one, body and aftertaste. So this coffee has got a slight lighter body, and there's almost like water, almost towards like a water viscosity, and aftertaste is slight muted. I wouldn't say a dull aftertaste, but a muted aftertaste. And then again, you gotta score it down on 5 to 10 ka basis pe. So this one has got a longer aftertaste, longer finish. It sticks to your palate for a longer duration of time. This one has a shorter one. And then last pass is going to be dedicated just for overall. Here is where I imagine overall how was the coffee, right from the temperature change, like because the temperature matters a lot. Sometimes the coffee becomes better once it cools down. Coffee sometimes gets boring after it gets cooled down. Plus overall is the bracket where you kind of talk about the coffee, saying if the body, aftertaste, acidity, everything was, how was it? So overall for these two coffees, I would say this one has a longer finish as compared to this one. This one was more well balanced as compared to this coffee, and I really felt like hugging the barista, whoever made this coffee, or the roaster. And the sweetness was also pretty much intense on this one as compared to this one. Not that I did not like this coffee, but if you just want to compare it, I would go for this one. That is how you basically cup the coffee.